Did you know that Nebraska and Iowa have become the epicenter of the most unpredictable and intense tornado outbreaks ever recorded in 2024? With dozens of tornadoes ripping through towns, leaving paths of destruction and bringing chaos to places that have never seen storms like these, experts are struggling to explain the strange weather patterns emerging in the heartland of America. What is causing this surge in violent weather? And could it be a sign of something even more alarming on the horizon? Keep watching to find out what's really happening and what it could mean for all of us. The mysterious phenomena. In 2024, Nebraska and Iowa faced a nightmare like no other, a terrifying series of tornadoes that tore through the region, making it the most intense tornado season ever recorded. It all kicked off on Friday, April 26th, when powerful storms began rumbling across the plains in the south. By early evening, the skies turned ominous and reports started flooding in. 42 tornado sightings across Texas, Nebraska, and Iowa. But it was Nebraska and Iowa that bore the brunt, with 78 potential tornadoes turning these states into a disaster zone. Imagine waking up in Omaha, Nebraska that day. The weather sirens were already wailing, the sky was dark, and rain was pounding down in sheets. High winds rattled windows, hail crashed against rooftops, and over 10,000 homes lost power. In just 2 hours, more than 5 inches of rain fell, flooding basements, swallowing cars in low-lying areas, and leaving the whole city on edge. By the end of it all, a staggering 8 inches of rain had drenched the area. April 26th turned into a day of records. Nebraska was slammed with the highest number of EF3 tornadoes seen in a single day since 2014. Out of the 19 tornadoes that day, 15 were ranked EF1 or higher, and 5 reached the terrifying EF3 status. One of the first to hit was just northeast of Lincoln, ripping toward Waverly with winds peaking at 160 miles per hour. This was no ordinary tornado. It was on the edge of becoming an EF4, where the wind speeds reach up to 200 miles per hour, capable of leveling houses and tossing cars like toys. And then, the tornadoes set their sights on Omaha, a bustling city home to nearly 500,000 people. In the Elkhorn neighborhood, entire blocks were reduced to rubble. Homes were left with walls missing, roofs torn apart, and the scenes looked like they were straight out of a nightmare. Heart-wrenching drone footage captured the sheer devastation. Residents wandering in shock through debris-strewn streets, not knowing what to do next. Just 30 miles away in Minden, Iowa, it was the same story. Houses flattened, trees uprooted, power lines down, and the entire city plunged into darkness. The destruction didn't stop there. In Lancaster County, Nebraska, a tornado slammed into an industrial building, collapsing it with 70 people inside. Miraculously, there was no fatalities, but the injuries and chaos painted a grim picture. With winds up to 165 miles per hour, these tornadoes were powerful enough to obliterate homes, flip cars, and hurl debris like missiles. They formed fast and moved even faster, giving people barely any time to seek shelter. Many residents felt caught off guard, saying these tornadoes struck with barely any warning, which only added to their fear and panic. Hundreds of homes were damaged or destroyed, displacing families and leveling entire neighborhoods. Emergency responders were stretched to their limits, scrambling to manage the multiple disaster zones all at once. The devastation was total, leaving communities shattered and the world watching in shock. So what exactly fueled the monstrous tornadoes that ripped through Nebraska and Iowa? Uncovering the source. Well, it comes down to two key ingredients: warm, moist air at the surface and cold air aloft. Add in winds that change direction and speed as they rise, a phenomenon known as vertical wind shear, and you've got the perfect recipe for supercell thunderstorms capable of spawning tornadoes. Think about it like this. Assume a kid at a party letting go of a helium balloon. The balloon shoots up because it's lighter than the surrounding air. Similarly, the warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico was less dense than the colder air above, so it splurged upward, unleashing heat, moisture, and energy that gave rise to those powerful storms. Just like many severe weather events in the United States, the atmosphere over Nebraska and Iowa became primed for disaster. Warm, moist air was being funneled north from the Gulf of Mexico by surface low-pressure streams. While higher up in the atmosphere, around the cruising altitude of planes, cold air was being transported by waves within and below the jet stream. These atmospheric waves, known as Rossby waves, or simply troughs and ridges, also intensified the vertical wind shear. It was a smaller wave passing through the Central Plains and Midwest on April 26th that triggered the devastating tornadoes in Nebraska and Iowa, including one that tore through the suburbs of Omaha and another that wreaked havoc in Minden, Iowa. By the following day, a larger wave moved into Oklahoma, bringing destruction to several small towns. Two crucial atmospheric waves were in play here, a shortwave trough and a longer wave. The shortwave trough moved through Nebraska on April 26th, while the longer wave swept across Oklahoma and Kansas on April 27th. The key factor was their proximity to the center of the surface low-pressure system and a warm front extending just east of it. This alignment created a hotbed of instability, with storms tapping into both the abundant warm, moist air and the intense vertical wind shear. As a result, the tornadoes unleashed not only their fury, but also brought along heavy rains, flash floods, and hail to parts of the central U.S. But there's another twist in the story: El Niño. In late 2023 and early 2024, global temperatures soared above average, likely driven by climate change and a particularly strong El Niño event. El Niño, a natural climate pattern, affects both the oceans and the atmosphere. As it begins to fade, the atmospheric waves it influences can become more pronounced, creating conditions more favorable for tornadoes. Historically, the U.S. has seen a spike in tornado activity when transitioning out of an El Niño phase. In April 2024, as the intense El Niño of 2023 to 2024 was winding down, meteorologists expected it to dissipate by summer. And as it weakened, the atmosphere set the stage for one of the most severe tornado outbreaks in recent memory. So now, is severe weather finally in the rearview mirror for Nebraska and Iowa? What's next? It's September now, the time when summer slowly fades into fall, and the air is filled with the comforting sense of pumpkins and apples beneath a cobalt blue sky. Fall weather usually conjures up images of crisp breezes and colorful leaves, not raging storms. So the big question on everyone's mind is, are we finally done with the severe weather here? Can we even get tornadoes or massive storms in the fall? We could all use a break, right? 2024 has been a wild ride for the Omaha area, marking one of the most destructive severe weather seasons on record. It's not that we had more storm events than any other year, but when they hit hard. And the numbers tell the story. As of September 6th, the viewing area clocked a staggering 86 tornadoes. That's miles above the average of just 16, and nearly double the previous record of 46 tornadoes set back in 2008. Douglas County alone had 5 days under a tornado warning, more than any other year. And if that wasn't enough, 31 severe thunderstorm warnings were issued, setting another record for the county. Then there's the April 26th EF4 tornado that tore through Elkhorn, the first violent EF4 or stronger tornado to hit Omaha since 1975. Just a few weeks later, on June 25th, we matched the record for the largest hailstone ever reported in the Omaha metro, a grapefruit-sized 4.5-inch monster that fell in Bellevue. Epley Airfield faced 2 separate windstorms, both producing 90-mile-per-hour gusts on June 25th and July 31st. Landing them in the top 5 highest wind gusts ever recorded at the airfield. The July 31st storm was especially brutal, causing the biggest power outages in OPPD history, and the third largest in LES history over in Lincoln. So are we finally out of the woods? While we can't say for certain that there won't be more severe weather this season, we can breathe a little easier knowing we're past its peak. As we move further into fall, it becomes less likely to see that warm, moisture-laden air from the Gulf of Mexico making its way this far north. That key ingredient for severe weather, moisture, gets hard to come by. But let's not relax too much just yet. While it's rare to see severe weather this time of year, it's not impossible. Between 1999 and 2023, Nebraska and Iowa averaged 1 to 2 tornadoes per month from September through December. September and October see more of these events compared to November and December. And while Omaha has witnessed severe weather as late as October, it's mostly windstorms. And still, even those are rare. But there are always exceptions. In the past 15 years, we've seen 2 major late-season severe weather events that caught everyone by surprise. First, there was the October 4th, 2013 EF4 tornado that tore through the eastern side of Wayne, Nebraska. And then there was the December 15th, 2021 tornado outbreak, a jaw-dropping event where over 100 tornadoes swept from eastern Nebraska all the way into Minnesota. This outbreak was a game-changer. Before that, tornadoes in December were nearly unheard of. Now, they're part of the average count. So what about 2024? Can we expect any late-season surprises this year? While it's too early to predict with certainty, the current trends seem promising. For one, we've entered a dry pattern that is expected to stick around for at least the next week, and maybe even into late September. Long-range forecasts suggest this dry spell could extend well into the first half of autumn, which would mean fewer chances for rain and naturally fewer chances for severe weather. However, we can never let our guard down completely. All it takes is one day where the right conditions come together, and suddenly severe weather is back on the table. So while the outlook suggests we might finally get a break, it's wise to keep an eye on the forecast. You never know when a sneaky storm might decide to roll in as we head deeper into fall. In the meantime, it's time to start preparing for the next big thing, snow season. Yes, in just a few short months, the Midwest will likely be trading tornado sirens for snow shovels. So what do you think about this situation? Is this just the beginning of a new normal we haven't prepared for? What do you think is causing this wild weather to spiral out of control? And could it happen where you live next? Let us know your thoughts and stay tuned because the story of our changing world is far from over. And also, if you don't want to miss what's coming next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell